Hi, everyone. Dr. Gregory here, and this is Accounting ACC 4620 Auditing and Assurance 2. We are going to look at the final section of Chapter 8, Part 3, using data analytics tools to obtain and evaluate evidence. Now, I'm going to give you a caveat on this. I have not performed much data analytics using analytical tools. So I'm going to mainly be using the text as backup because I don't have a lot of experience in this. So we know that when we look at data analytics, it's starting to become a growing trend in CPA firms, and they're more and more adopting tools. For example, the firm Deloitte uses what's called Omnia, which is a cloud-based platform, and they claim that it reduces audit burden, it produces higher quality, and it's much more time efficient. PricewaterhouseCoopers has a platform that they call Aura, and it's a comprehensive audit platform, and they claim that it creates greater audit efficiency. I've not used any one of these, and I'm not endorsing any platform out there because I don't have the experience to do that. But we can see how firms are starting to develop their own products to incorporate data analytic tools. The ACCA Global Association stated that, for auditors, the main driver is to improve audit quality and efficiency, because what it does is it's time saving on the auditor's side. So they're not having to go through, like I did back in the old days, of adding up every inventory item, recalculating reports that took hours to do because you would have to add them up on a calculator with a calculator tape. Even though it was an Excel spreadsheet, you had to add them up because we never knew, looking at the spreadsheet, whether or not they eliminated items in the spreadsheet. Then what we would have to do is add everything up, and then we would do a reverse. We would take the total and then put that in as a negative and add everything back up again. In order to create efficiency, these tools were put in place, which are very much time savers. Audits are based on hours of work times the amount per hour, depending on who's doing what. This now allows auditors to focus in on more substantive issues, such as diving deeper into how the corporation is operating or how the business is operating. So what is data analytics? Data analytics is the use of tools to look at financial information from a quantitative or a qualitative point of view. It extracts data, it organizes it, it identifies patterns. Perhaps under the qualitative side, it identifies certain words or terms that might be important. It does enhance that efficiency and time management. You're not spending half of a day trying to add up on a calculator tape all of the fixed assets or all of the inventory items. You can put your work together for other things that are more important to the quality of the audit. It allows you to do data mining. It allows you to retrieve data using some type of process. Perhaps you want to retrieve data in the business using business barcode data. We could do data cleaning, or what we call data scrubbing, where we go through and we clean the data out for any type of errors, duplicate information, incomplete information. So you aren't having to assess everything. It all comes to you with that data already scrubbed. You could understand the data being provided a little bit better. you can look at the data to see how the processes or data points predict the next process to occur. And then you can go back and test the information to see, does that process really does occur? You can investigate and see if there's new patterns of data coming out that might be a way for us to understand that maybe there could be some changes going on in that industry, or it could indicate that there might be some irregularities going on as well. And data visualization allows us to drill down beyond just simple charts and graphs. We can create dashboards in that visualization and pull out information such as daily sales or patterns of sales. There are some tools that are provided to you in the in the text. I didn't go into them, but they are there, and these links are also in the text for you to go in and look at. Now, one thing I want to remember, as great as artificial intelligence is, and data analytics and big data and all of this wonderful stuff, it doesn't substitute for human review and professional judgment. It's not programmed to do that. It's not going to do that. So you still have to use your skill set in professional judgment and skepticism when you are looking at the output of this data. Remember in our prior videos, we looked at the 5 management assertions. Well, here you can use data analytical tools to do those same, to meet those same assertions. Now let's talk about performing tests of details using data analytic tools. Now we want to select our transactions based on the logical identifiers, because that's what your data analysis tools are going to look at, are those identifiers. Specific dollar limits, maybe accounts that are past due. You can use data coming from the aging report to look at past due information. Perhaps you want to analyze that file and compare those account balances to credit policies. If we have high balances and they're delinquent based on the analytics, it could be a way for auditors to suggest to management that they should relook at their credit policies because they may be putting themselves at risk. And then we can perform numerical analysis. And Benford's law is one thing that I've used in the past, where we go through and we identify numerical patterns. For example, if the threshold for procurement that requires 2 signatures is $5,000, perhaps we want the system to look at everything that could be coming up in either a 0.99, like $4,999.99, which is just under that threshold, or other types of numerical patterns that may show up. The text addresses this, so I'm going to address it too. Blockchain and digital currency. Again, another caveat. I've not worked in digital currency as a form of payment for a transaction. I have worked in blockchain technology. It was being implemented at a federal agency where I was consulting for before I left. And so blockchain is basically digital accounting. Remember, you used to have your purchase request document, and then the purchase order, and then the receiving report, and then the invoice. And you had all this paper going all over the place because everyone had to sign it, and different people had to sign it in different places. And then in accounting, it all had to be gathered together, stapled together, and that was the supporting source documentation for the payment. But we had a lot of problems with that. We still do in those areas that use still paper generation. And I'm not knocking paper generation. But when you've got a purchase request that has to go to one department, a purchase order that may have to go to the boss of another department, a receiving report that has to be initialed, signed, and checked off by the shipping people, and then you've got an invoice coming straight into accounting, it's tendency to get lost. So blockchain technology was created to help reduce that, one, the paper, and two, the flow of this information. And it uses electronic authorizations. So for example, I am allowed to sign off for purchase orders up to a certain threshold. So someone would electronically go in and create the purchase order request. It would go through into the system. The system would identify a primary and secondary or third authorizations. Because if I'm on vacation and I post that I'm on vacation, that purchase order still needs to be approved. So there would be a secondary authorization in the system. So I would open up my computer in the morning and it would tell me I have 4 purchase orders that I need to approve. I would go in and pull up the file. The file would have the document in it with all the information in there. And then I would review it, insert my electronic signature, and then it would go off to the vendor, and the vendor would receive that and place the order. It's easier to access when we're auditing. As long as you have good authorization and security of passwords in the system, and your IT department has firm access rights to these different components, it's a really easy and efficient method of moving documents around. And this really came into play when we were looking at them, as our companies expanded. Maybe we had the headquarters office in one part of the United States, but shipping and receiving was in another part of the United States. Having that paper getting lost somewhere in transit was a very high risk. So we could do cryptographic signatures electronically and allow the transaction to flow through. One of the things we have to think about is if you are working with a vendor, that vendor has to be able to have that blockchain technology as well in order to pull your invoice through. So sometimes there's these hybrid blockchains where it only goes through to the purchasing request and purchasing authorization side. Then the paper goes to the vendor ships the item, and then maybe it picks up again where the receiving report then is electronically uploaded into the system, which allows for the invoice to come in. The US government has been implementing this in certain agencies, such as procurement, to centralize the functions. One agency I worked with, they decided to move their entire procurement office to Texas. And so everything generated out of there. Well, if people were working in Michigan or in Florida and didn't want to move, they would have lost their jobs. But through blockchain technology and this new crypto encrypted signatures, they were still able to work from their offices and access that data from Houston in order to still conduct their business. I know very little about cryptocurrency except from what I have read. So if you are interested in cryptocurrency, then I would suggest you go out and do some additional research into that area. In the beginning of data analytics, we were looking at what we call business intelligence, or BI, and it did allow for analytical processing. Again, the information is presented easier. We use business intelligence when we're developing sometimes dashboards in companies. So if I were the CFO, I would open my computer up and maybe it would tell me invoices ready to pay that was pulling from the accounts payable system, anticipated cash receipts, maybe the sales of the day before. All of that would appear on my dashboard in some form of chart or graphic, and I can individualize it for myself. And then BI is being integrated now into big data management. And here are some examples of a software, a website called G2 Crowd Enterprise Grid on page 384 of your text that actually goes through and ranks different software platforms of BI, gives you the advantages and the disadvantages of each. Alert, alert, alert. I want to bring this out to you because there's changes coming down with the CPA exam starting in January 2024. It's called the CPA Evolution, and I posted a link of this into the readings for you to look at. We are now starting to incorporate data analytics into the CPA exam. So what I would recommend you to do is, if you're not planning on taking the CPA exam until January 2024 or later, my strong suggestion would be to take a data analytics class, because now the new model is going to be focusing just on 3 areas of business: tax compliance and planning, business analysis and reporting, and information systems and controls. So where we used to have the basic 4, theory, taxation, financial accounting reporting, and the other accounting reporting, we're now only going to focus on these 3. I'm sorry, it's been many, many years since I took the CPA exam. Now, skills that the new CPA is expected to have is critical thinking skills, professional judgment and skepticism, and these are all going to be tested now in the CPA exam. Problem solving, understanding business systems, controls, and risks, data management and analysis, ding, ding, ding. You will need to know some form of data analytics, and performance of systems and organization control engagements. So if you have not taken a look at this, I would go out and take a look at that website and see what is it that CPAs need today, looking forward into 2024, that you may have to incorporate into your current skill set. In summary, this last section of Chapter 8, we talked about the evolution, a little bit of data analytics. What is data analytics and tools and audits? Performing tests of details. A little bit about blockchain and digital currency. A little bit about business intelligence, and alerting you to the CPA evolution that's coming in 2024. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I will see you in the classroom.